O Jerusalem, take off the garment of your sadness and pain. Put on forever the beautiful glory that comes from God. Wrap the cloak of God's righteousness around you, and crown yourself with glory from the Eternal One. For God will reveal your splendor to everyone under heaven. God will give you a name that will last forever, the peace of justice, and the glory of godliness. Arise, Jerusalem, go to a high point and look towards the east. See your children gathered together from west and east by the command of the Holy One. Rejoice that God has remembered them. Although they left you on foot, led away by their enemies, God will bring them back to you, carried in glory as on a royal throne. For God has ordered the leveling of every high mountain and of the everlasting hills. The valleys will be filled up to make the ground level so that Israel may walk safely in God's glory. The forests and every fragrant tree will give Israel shade at God's command. For God will lead Israel with joy, in the light of His glory, with His mercy and righteousness. This is a copy of the letter that Jeremiah sent to those who were to be taken to Babylon as captives by the king of the Babylonians. Jeremiah gave them the message that God had given him. Because of the sins you have committed before God, you will be taken as captives to Babylon by Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. You will have to spend many years in Babylon, as much as 7 generations. After that captivity, I, the Lord, will bring you home in peace. In Babylon you will see gods of silver, gold, and wood, gods that are carried about on people's shoulders and that cause other nations to fear. Be careful that you do not imitate these pagan acts, and do not become fearful of pagan gods. When you see crowds carrying the images in a procession and worshipping them, you must say in your hearts, O Lord, we must worship you alone. For my angel is with you, and he will watch over your lives. The pagan gods are overlaid with gold and silver, and their tongues are polished by woodcarvers, but they are fake and cannot speak. The people make gold crowns for their gods as if they were dressing up a girl who loves fancy clothing. Sometimes the priests steal the gold and silver for themselves or give it to the temple prostitutes. They put clothes on these gods of gold, silver, and wood as if they were human. Yet these gods, dressed in purple robes, cannot protect themselves from tarnish or decay. Even the temple dust needs to be cleaned from their faces. One god holds a scepter, like a district judge, yet it is powerless to condemn an offender to death. Another holds a sword or an axe in its hand but cannot protect itself from war or thieves. Therefore, it is evident that they are not gods, so do not fear them. Just as a pot becomes worthless when it is broken, so these gods are worthless as they sit in their temples. Their eyes are full of dust kicked up by the feet of those who enter the temple. A person who is awaiting execution for offending the king must be securely locked up. In the same way, the priests must secure their temples with bars and locks, lest their gods be taken by thieves. The priests light more lamps than they themselves would ever need, but their gods cannot see the light. The gods are like the wooden beams in the temple, for termites eat out their hearts from within. Even their garments are devoured, but the gods do not even notice. Their faces are black from the smoke that rises in the temple. Bats, swallows, and other birds perch on their bodies and heads, and so do cats. All this is evidence that they are not gods, so do not fear them. They may be adorned with gold, But unless someone cleans off the tarnish, they will not shine. And they felt nothing when they were being molded. Even though they cost much money, there is no spirit in them. Because they cannot walk, they must be carried on people's shoulders, which proves how worthless they are. People who worship them are put to shame, for if these idols topple over, their worshippers must stand them up again. And even when they are set upright, they cannot move. Offering gifts to them is like offering gifts to the dead. Everything offered as a sacrifice to these idols is taken by the priests for their own use. The wives of the priests take their share of the food, storing it for later use, but they never give even part of it to the poor or the helpless. Even women who are ceremonially unclean because of menstruation or childbirth handle the sacrifices. Thus you can see that they are not gods. Do not fear them. How can they even be called gods? They allow women to place offerings before these idols made of silver, gold, and wood. The priests sit in their temples with torn clothing, with heads and beards shaved, and with their heads uncovered. The priests moan and shriek before their gods as if they were wailing for a dead person at a funeral. The priests even take the clothing of the idols to give to their wives and children. And whether these gods are treated well or poorly, they cannot repay in kind. They don't have the power to appoint a king or to depose him. Likewise, they cannot give wealth or money to anyone. If someone makes a vow to them and does not keep it, these idols cannot hold that person accountable. They cannot prevent a person from dying or protect the weak from the strong. They cannot restore sight to the blind or rescue a person in distress. They cannot show concern for widows or help orphans. These wooden idols that are overlaid with gold and silver are as powerless as a block of stone from a mountain quarry. Anyone who worships idols will be put to shame. So how can anyone claim, or even think, that such idols are gods? Even the Babylonians themselves dishonor them. When they find a person who cannot speak, they present him to Bel, asking him for the gift of speech, as though Bel understands them. Yet the people fail to understand the contradiction, for they have no common sense. So they do not abandon these gods. Women sit in their roped-off area along the passageways, burning grain as incense. And when one of them is selected by a man to sleep with him, she mocks the women next to her who are less attractive and were not selected. Everything that takes place around these idols is false. So how can anyone claim, or even think, that these idols are gods? Made by carvers and goldsmiths, these idols can be only what the artisans want them to be. And the very craftsmen who make them don't live very long themselves. So how can the things made by mortals be gods? The only legacy they leave is lies and disgrace. If war comes or a disaster occurs, the priests discuss where they can hide with their gods. How can anyone think these idols are gods when they cannot even save themselves from war or disaster? Considering that they are only wood covered with gold or silver, it will become obvious that they are not gods. Every nation and king will realize that they are merely human creations without any divine power in them. Don't the people realize that these idols are not gods? These idols cannot appoint a king or send rain to people. They cannot regulate their own affairs or vindicate someone who has been wronged. They are as useless as crows that fly across the sky. If fire breaks out in the temple of these gods made of wood and covered with gold or silver, their priests run to safety, but the gods burn up like the temple beams. They cannot stop an enemy king and his armies. So why should anyone say, or even think, that they are gods? These wooden gods, overlaid with silver and gold, are unable to save themselves from thieves or robbers. Those who steal the gold and silver and clothing of the idols are not stopped, for the gods are helpless. Therefore, it is better to be a king who shows his courage, or even a kitchen pot that is used by its owner, than to be one of these false gods. It is even better to be a door that protects a house or a wooden pillar in a palace than to be one of these false gods. The sun, moon, and stars shine brightly, fulfilling the purpose for which God made them. Lightning flashes across the sky and is seen by many people. The winds blow in every land. The clouds obey God's orders to float over all the earth. Fire falls from the sky and burns up mountainsides and woods, just as it is commanded to do. But idols cannot compare with such glory or power. So no one should think or say these idols are gods, for they cannot decide a case or do any good to anyone. Since you know then that these idols are not gods, do not fear them. They can neither curse kings nor bless them. They cannot produce signs in the heavens for nations to see. They neither shine like the sun nor give light like the moon. Wild animals are better off than idols because they can flee to shelter and look after themselves. No one can produce evidence that they are gods, so do not fear them. These wooden gods, overlaid with silver and gold, are as powerless as a scarecrow in a cucumber patch. They are no better than a thorn bush in a garden, which birds perch on anyway. These wooden gods, overlaid with gold and silver, are like a corpse thrown out into the darkness. The purple robes and silk garments rot as they hang upon the idols, so you can tell that these idols are not gods. In the end they themselves will be destroyed as well and will become a disgrace in the land. It is better to be a righteous person who has no idols. He will not bring shame on himself.